Hi folks, I'm Richard Friedman and welcome to my political cartoon countdown for December 18th, 2021. Getting closer to that New Year's Eve. Okay, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I was originally a high school math teacher for many years and I retired and I took up doing political cartoons during the Bush years and through the Obama years, and suddenly I decided to start writing books, and beginning with former President Trump, and so that's how I started a series on Trump political cartoon books, and shifted over to political cartoons during the Biden presidency, beginning now. So anyway, tell you a little bit about how these books are available, and you could go to my website, which is richardsbooksofpoliticalcartoons.com, and there's a link there. Right, you can hook up right to Amazon, and they'll ship it out right out to you. The Amazon good folks at Amazon send it right out to you, and I hope you would enjoy the book. And if not, you can go to my website again and just have a good time, like a political Disney World. No ticket admission. Just go to the site, and there you'll find all my books and some political cartoons and videos, and a lot. You should come across a lot of interesting cartoons over the years that I've done from different books that you would enjoy, and I hope you would take advantage of that. And okay, I guess I got through saying what I wanted to say, and now it's time, like I always like to do, is to reminisce about, say, going back in my books, say 2018, 2017, 2019. So this week, I picked out to reminisce on this date. This goes back to 2019. This is my 2019 book. And this goes back to here we go. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, here we go. This is December 16th, 2019. And here we find Rudy Giuliani, former President Trump's personal attorney, traveling on an airplane back to Washington, D.C., having some exciting news for then President Trump. There he is. Okay. Let's go. Okay. There's Rudy on the plane. It's a dream that President Trump had about it, but this is based on reality because this did occur. So this is based upon expanding on that reality, I would say. Rudy's coming back here. He's on a plane. Everybody's drinking. Lady there drinking her Diet Coke. Man looking out the windows. And there's Rudy on the cell phone to then President Trump on the airplane. President Trump dreaming this. And here we go with the introduction, the cartoon. Okay, amid impeachment, Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, returns from his trip to Ukraine on an anti-Biden investigation. Now they were going to try to drum up a whole thing on then candidate Biden. According to the Wall Street Journal, the president called Giuliani, the former President Trump called Rudy on a plane, while his plane was still taxiing fast down the runway, to ask him, "What did you get?" Okay, so if it was taxiing down the runway, I guess it was while he was leaving Ukraine. He said Rudy got on the plane, right? Rudy got on the plane, and before the plane was just taxiing out to go back to Washington, and before the plane really got airborne, took off, President Trump was on the phone to Rudy, on the way back, return trip. Okay, so. Okay. He wanted to make sure the plane didn't crash. God forbid the plane should crash. Not so much about Rudy, but he would never find out what happened. That would be the baddest part of it all, you know. So anyway, okay, cool. Giuliani, while his plane was still taxiing fast down the runway, to ask him, "What did you get? What did you get?" Trump's fantastic dream following Giuliani's reply. Okay, and this is December 16th. Here we go. December 16th. Okay, here, let me make it clear. There it is. December 16th, 2019. It's 2 years ago. Okay. And Rudy, here's Rudy. I know, okay, asking, let me finish it. What do you get? Trump's fantastic dream following Giuliani's reply, December 16th, 2019. Okay, so here's Rudy responding to the initial phone call from then President Trump. And he says, Mr. President, more than you can imagine. Is what I think he did say this. I think he did. Okay, and then President Trump in his dream, he dreams an article from the New York Times that took place as a result of what he found out, what Rudy came back with, that this was the result. It was very productive, and he found a lot of stuff, and this is his dream, former President Trump, then President Trump's dream. Here's, we got the New York Times. This is an article he dreams about in the New York Times. The New York Times, Giuliani investigation sparks FBI Biden probe. Biden under pressure to withdraw from race. Bernie Sanders takes the lead in Democratic Party. Okay. Number one. And that's what would have happened if they would have been able to smear Biden to the extent that he didn't get the nomination. It would have gone to Bernie Sanders, probably. So anyway, and that would have been not good for President Trump, because then he had the left and the liberals, and the commies would come in and all that business. So that would have played right down the chimney. That would have been like a dish of Franks and beans to me when I was 15 years old. You know, that would have been a really big treat. You know, to have instead of Biden, to have here Bernie Sanders, to have Bernie Sanders running instead of Biden. Could you imagine? We've got the commies, and we've got socialism, and we've got, they're taking away our guns, they're taking away everything is going to be under the government. You know, you can imagine what a field day that would have been, you know. It would have been like Trump could have had another Johnson landslide. In reverse, though, this was a Democrat. This would have been a Republican landslide had Bernie Sanders taken the nomination away from Biden. So this is the dream basically here. There it is. Okay, this was my 2019 book with the White House in the background. Okay, this is my latest book, part 1. Part 2 will be coming out in a few weeks to this, and that'll run to the end of December. So what you're seeing today is basically in my second book, finishing up the second book from the cartoon countdown of today. Okay, this is 2021 first book here. You could recognize some of the characters here pretty. There's a pillow man with thumbs up. Bernie Sanders again. Biden. Dr. Fauci here. Nancy Pelosi. Elizabeth Warren. Barr. There's the ghost of Nixon. So you have Vice President Kamala Harris, Shifty Schiff, Hannity, Pence, Lindsey Graham, little Marco Rubio. So, Amy Klobuchar. Let's bring in Amy here. All right. Okay. So this was my latest book. It's out now, as they all are. Okay. And this is my 2020 book. Okay. I always like to just reminisce. All right. Well, there's so much to. I don't know where to. There's Alexander Hamilton. If he would tweet it, this is a tweet from Alexander Hamilton. If he could come back in time and tweet. Here's Rush Limbaugh, Mr. Clean. These people couldn't find anything on Trump. Even I was very impressed with how clean I am, Rush. That is, that Trump is F.N. Mr. Clean. So there I drew a Trump Mr. Clean. That's a Trump Mr. Clean. Here's Rush Limbaugh. Okay. This was a 2019 book. Is President Trump with Kim Jong-un. Okay. Oh, this is the last. I get into it myself, like someone else wrote the book, and I'm just looking at this book, say what, it sometimes appears that way to me, and I'm looking at this stuff. Okay, here is Trump with USS McCain. Trump says the Navy official who directed obscuring the USS John S. McCain in Japan was well-meaning, going to great lengths to shield the president from seeing the ship. So they hid the Trump visit to there. They hid the USS McCain. They took it out to sea somewhere, I had nothing to do with keeping the USS John McCain out of sight. Whoever asked that the ship be hidden from view did it because they thought I didn't like him. They meant well. And here it is, folks, on the McCain here. And saying, it's Trump. If he sees this McCain ship, I'm going to be washing ship toilets. Get this ship out of sight. Send it to the Iranian Straits of Hormuz. Okay, that's the naval commander. Okay, this was my first book, and you had a section here on Democrats and Republicans. Here's Anthony Scaramucci with Bannon. Okay, and here's an advertisement for the next Attorney General. Trump minded Attorney General wanted must be willing to fire Mueller. No legal experience required. No law degree required. Must be high school graduate. Okay, folks. I hope you enjoyed that little trip down memory lane. And now we get into the countdown. Now, these two cartoons haven't been put up on Twitter yet, so I'm just shooting them out to you. So I'm doing them first. Okay. Now here, this is something that just happened just yesterday. This came over that Rick Perry. So this sparked this Rick Perry flashback. This is a flashback. You know, it's sometimes things happen when I say to myself, should I do a cartoon on this or should I do a flashback? And then you look at the cartoon and you say, you say to yourself, well, you remember like the Coca-Cola Classic, when the Coca-Cola introduced they changed the formula, and everybody was complaining about the new formula. They didn't like it, and they wrote to the Coca-Cola company, and then they came out with Coca-Cola Classic. That's the way a lot of times it's like with my cartoons. Sometimes I just hit it on the money. I say to myself, I'm going to mess up Coca-Cola Classic if I don't just do a flashback to show the cartoon how it reflects on what's happening now. You know, so I say to myself, why do another cartoon and mess and have and go through that Coca-Cola debacle, you know, and stick with the classic. The classic is that first one. Sometimes, not always, but a lot of times. So here is a flashback in that trend of thought. Rick Perry flashback. This happened just the other day, yesterday, I believe. It came out. Given reportedly, January 6 investigators believe Perry, former President Trump's energy secretary. He was energy secretary. He said that was one of the Perry when he was running for president. He said he's going to abolish the energy. That was one. In fact, he couldn't even think of that was the one he was going to abolish. But he couldn't even think that was the one that he forgot about. But it was, that's the energy department. I'm going to abolish that after the whole, the whole scene. But he wanted to abolish the energy department. So now they made him the head of the energy department. There was like a double purpose there, He might have, who knows? We don't know. But he's not there now, and that was former President Trump's energy secretary, Rick Perry, who wanted to abolish the department before he became head of it. Former President Trump's energy secretary sent a text message to White House Chief of Staff for then President Trump, Mark Meadows. So they're saying here, this came back from Mark Meadows, I believe this came out of Mark Meadows' book, that he threw Rick Perry a little bit under the bus there in writing back, because Rick Perry is like small potatoes when you're talking compared to Bannon and all these other people, So Rick Perry, it's Rick Perry. What the hell, Throw him a little some bird food, So anyway, energy secretary sent it to White House Chief of Staff for then President Trump, and he sent it to Mark Meadows, which outlined a strategy for overturning the 2020 presidential election result on his cell phone. So that's how they traced it to Rick Perry's cell phone. That because it was sent from Rick Perry's cell phone about January 4th. So this happened during the period after the election, when then President Trump was very pissed off. He really wanted to keep hold of his office, and that was before the riot of January 6th. So this was after the election. There may have been a few states that hadn't reported yet. So it was very close in a few states that hadn't reported. I think Arizona was one of the states, but it was very close. I think, I'm not sure about that, but there was few of the states hadn't really made a conclusive determination yet. It was so close. So even before it was in the bag, with all the states, but it was enough that Biden could be declared the winner of the election. So he had enough electoral votes to be able to say, yes, President Biden is president-elect of the United States at this point. President Trump is still president, but Biden is president-elect, So President, because it was sent from Perry. Now Rick Perry, I heard this. He's denying that he ever sent this. Now it was sent on his cell phone, right? So, so he's going to have to say that he was walking down the street and somebody came up to him and said, look, Rick, I need to talk to you a minute. I know President Trump is really concerned about having the election stolen from him. And I got an idea that maybe we could get the electoral votes changed somehow and use this scheme. And I want to tell you this, and give me, okay, that's a good idea. And then he gave him the phone, you see, and then he gave him the phone, thinking that it would be helpful, maybe, and then the guy called from Rick Perry's phone. Because his battery was dead on his own cell phone, so he borrowed Rick Perry's phone, and Rick Perry said, well, okay, if you want to do that, you're a nice guy. I have nothing to do with this, but if you're a nice guy, seem like a nice guy, what the hell, go ahead, use my phone. If you want to call Mark Meadows at the White House, go ahead, you just got to search, look at my contacts there, go through the contacts, and then just press that button, Mark Meadows, and there you go, So Rick Perry had nothing to do with it because somebody asked to borrow his phone. Now, if you want to put that up as a defense to say, well, it came from my phone, but somebody really asked me to use it to call Mark Meadows because they had a great scheme to help President Trump. And I said, well, what do you want to help President Trump? Oh, and I'll tell you about some other that time. Maybe, So anyway, so that's the story. If you want a defense, I don't think it's going to hold up too well, I don't think it's going to hold up too well, So anyway, here's the flashback to the cartoon. Now, how you go ahead and you do a thing like that, you use your own cell phone, right, to make a call like that goes against the American voters of the United States, it's a horrible thing to do. It's treachery in a way to do a thing like that, to go against the American voters. It is, but to use your own cell phone to do it, it's more like it's a I don't know what to say there, I don't know. Leave that to you. You decide. I always say that. I give you the facts and the joke, and you decide. Okay, so this is Rick Perry here. This is the flashback cartoon. This was way back. I did this a while ago. Okay, when Rick Perry is elected. Now, he was running for president. See, he was running for president along with he was a candidate along with Trump. So when Rick Perry is elected, this is a fan. He keeps his campaign promise to rip up the Iranian nuke deal on his first day in office. So he's going to shred the Iranian nuke deal he said on his first day in office. Okay, so I took that idea, knowing Rick Perry, so I took that idea here and put him in the Oval Office, and there's the shredding machine, and there is here is the Iranian nuke deal, okay? There's the Iranian nuke deal, there's the paper shredder, and it's not working. It's not going down, and he's pushing the button there, and it's supposed to shred, and it ain't working. So then candidate Perry says, "Whoops, I forgot how to work this White House paper shredder. Can someone show me how it works? This White House shredder is different than my one back in Texas," because he was governor of Texas too. Rick Perry had been governor of Texas, He probably had a paper shredder in his office then too, So then here it is, and this is why it's not working, because the plug wasn't in, So he forgot to put the plug in. That's the whole joke there, He can't figure it out, So that's a joke, See, the plug isn't in the wall. The Iranian nuke deal is ready to be shredded, but it ain't going nowhere because there's no plug in the machine. Okay, this cartoon I just finished up a while ago also, and I thought that former President Trump now is really antagonistic towards McConnell. He doesn't want him to have a leadership position, with the assumption that the Republicans will take over the Senate, in the next election, in the midterm election, the Republicans. That's the expectation. Okay, with that expectation in mind. So former President Trump dreams of a return. Now, the idea is none of the Republicans are willing to take McConnell here away from his leadership position. Now he's Senate minority leader now. He's a minority leader in the Senate. He would go to majority leader in the Senate the way he had been. But former President Trump wants him out of that position. He wants his Republicans to unite behind him and get rid of McConnell. Basically, for two reasons. McConnell, number one, spoke against him after January 6th riot. He kind of said that it was his responsibility. He made his responsibility. He said things, that McConnell said that was uncharacteristic for McConnell because he had been such I used to call him Sing-Along Mitch because he always sang along with President Trump for the first time. He came out and even he had to say something then. Okay, so he's former President Trump is mad at him for that. Plus, he's mad at him for supporting the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which some senators, I think about 18 senators or so, or 13 or 18 senators, went ahead and supported, and McConnell kind of encouraged them and pushed them to support that bipartisan infrastructure bill that got passed. And President Trump now feels that the Republicans lost their big block, the block that they could control the Democrats with by threatening a shutdown of the government. Because that whole thing was tied up in that, because some Republicans were threatening to that it was a whole thing there, because the bipartisan infrastructure was a bipartisan agreement, you see, and that was basically confined to the infrastructure of the country, the roads, bridges, and things like that. So, well, actually, I'm thinking back now, this was not tied to the social end of it was tied to the financing the government. This was not. So President Trump here didn't want the Democrats to get a feather in their hat by achieving legislation that would support the country. That's what it comes really down to here, because it was the other bill that was tied to the raising the debt. This had nothing to do with that. So the Republicans went along with this, and it was a good bill and a good thing to do. So how President Trump was against this, I ain't got you just that's your choice. That's your call on that one. But anyway, so it seems to be more of a we versus them approach than the United States of America. Let's get this country back together again. Let's build our roads, our bridges, and get everything, the water systems and everything going. But it doesn't seem to be that's on President Trump's mind, or lower on his mind than defeating the Democrats. That's the way it appears. It appears that way. Okay. So anyway, I wanted, with that background in mind, former President Donald Trump dreams of return of Archie, because none of the Republicans are going along with former President Trump on dumping McConnell from his leadership position. So he's desperate now, looking for somebody to come along and lobby with him. He's desperate for that, just like he was desperate to get some support for overturning the election. Now he's desperate for support in getting McConnell out and getting somebody to stand with him to dump McConnell as leader from his leadership position in the Senate. Okay, it's the same kind of determination. So former President Donald Trump dreams of a return of Archie Bunker, the ghost of Archie Bunker, to lobby with the former president to remove, now he calls him unsmiling political hack, Senator Mitch McConnell. There's unsmiling Mitch McConnell. It's unsmiling Mitch McConnell. Well, he's not smiling there, that's for sure. Okay. Unsmiling political hack, Senator Mitch McConnell, from his leadership in the Republican Party. Given Trump remains critical of McConnell for supporting the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and McConnell's position in the Republican Party appears safe for now. So the Republicans are backing McConnell to keep his position. Okay? And here goes Archie Bunker here. The ghost of Archie Bunker. This is a dream, you see? It's a dream here. He's looking for somebody to support him. The Republicans are not jumping on board for this. Okay? So that's his dream. Okay? And here's the ghost of Archie Bunker returns. The lobby for President Trump in terms of removing McConnell from his leadership position in the Senate. Okay. America's president, Donald J. Trump, has got it right. It is beyond compression. So President Trump said, it's beyond comprehension. So Archie Bunker translated into his language, saying it is beyond compression. Instead of comprehension, he's saying here it is beyond compression. How this is beyond compression, how this guy can stay as leader. Now he says the January 6th select weirdos are very interesting. Yeah, Mitch McConnell said it's very interesting what's going on now, you know? Okay. Okay. And then we have here McConnell responding, and he says, it will be very interesting when you are beaten back into the ground where you came out of, you know? So, McConnell saying that to the ghost of Archie Bunker. And then you have here Archie Bunker responding back. The ghost of Archie Bunker responds back. I'm going back up to the heaven for great Americans where I will meet President Trump someday, but you ain't ever going to be there. God, get me out of here. You know, he wants to go back. He wants to go back up to heaven there. You know, he's had it. Mitch McConnell confronting the ghost of Archie Bunker, who Trump has dreamed returned to the only, because he couldn't get any Republicans, so he dreams up the ghost of Archie Bunker returns as an ally to help him get McConnell removed from leadership in the Senate for Republicans. Okay, here's Archie Bunker, whose red tie there, thumbs up. President Trump. There he goes back up to heaven now. He's leaving this place. He's gone. Okay. Okay. Now we have here Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, gets grilled by Fox News host Chris Wallace over Graham's backing the Trump 2017 tax cuts that added $2 trillion to the national debt. So what's happening here is that Chris Wallace is not disputing the fact. You see, and here we have what it says here. This was taken from the show. You know, I drew this off of that because Chris Wallace is saying yes, he's agreeing that down the road, if you keep these programs in place, you do run into problems financially with a deficit. Okay, so that will happen if you keep them down. You know, if you keep these programs going, you know, you run out of gas eventually. You know, if you fill a car with gasoline and you know you don't keep and you drive along certain miles, you're going to run out of gas. Well, that's what they're saying here about this program here. You know, for Biden's. So anyway. So what Chris Wallace's point here is that Lindsey, even though he supported the Trump tax cuts, which created trillions of dollars of debt. Also, it didn't help the poor, the people, the disadvantaged, the minorities. It didn't help nobody like that. It helped the wealthy corporations and the wealthy Americans mostly. Most of it did. So, but that triggered a deficit of trillions of dollars too. But he still supported it. So he's not Chris's point here is, how can you justify not supporting Biden's program, which does the same thing as Trump's, but yet you supported that. The same rationale would apply. You don't want to increase the deficit, okay? So that's his point. He's not disputing. So he's giving Lindsey the fact that yes, it will, but also your Trump tax cuts created a big dent and a lot of debt for the United States, a lot of increased the national debt, trillions of dollars also. So how could you justify that reason for not voting for the Biden package? You know? So he put Lindsey on the spot, really grilled him. He really put him on the grill like a burger, you know. I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch him make hamburgers. They put the hamburger on, they flip it, and they go, you know. That's what Chris Wallace did here. You know, he flipped Lindsey on the grill. You know, so here we go with this. So Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, gets grilled by Fox News host Chris Wallace over Graham's backing the Trump 2017 tax cuts that added $2 trillion to the national debt. On Fox News, Hannity show, Graham later said, "I think Build Back Better is dead forever because Joe Manchin has said he's not going to vote for a bill that will add to the deficit." So again, he's trying to get on the wagon with this Democrat Joe Manchin. You know, he's trying to get onto them. So saying that to that way. You know, and Joe Manchin is really blocking it, and another senator they're blocking this. You know, blocking a lot of things. We're not permitting the filibuster with the voting rights, and things like that. So they're putting a monkey wrench into it. So Lindsey's trying to twist the monkey wrench, you know, a little bit, using the Manchin monkey wrench here. You know, he said and for a bill that will because it's dead because Joe Manchin has said he's not going to vote for a bill that will add to the deficit. And Build Back Better adds $3 trillion to the deficit. Okay, December 16th, 2021. Now, here we have the dialogue that went on here. Okay, there's Lindsey Graham. There's Lindsey. There's a red tie there. And he says, "You supported the 2017 Trump tax cut. That was a lie because it wasn't paid for." And it wasn't, okay? And then Lindsey, he says, "No. What happens is you can't go beyond 10 years in the terms of the budget window. So there's a window, a 10-year window, until you really get into problems. But it happened right away. The deficit happened. And the thing was that the projections that they made, that these big corporations were going to suddenly raise wages, and they were going to hire more people, and they were going to throw the tax cuts and the money they got saved from the tax cuts, they were going to put that into the society to help to raise the workers' wages and to hire more people. But that never transpired. That never happened. What happened is they used that money for the most part. This is reportedly now. I wasn't there watching what was going on, but this is what I hear, that they used it to buy back their stock. I took their stock option. They bought back their stock, for getting control of their company. So they bought back stock. They bought back stock of their own company to concentrate the power of the company in their hands, you know. And so that's what they say. That's reportedly, okay. So that's reportedly what happened. So then here he goes. Chris goes. So that 10 year was in terms of a budget window. There was that $2 trillion that was there right there then. It's not no 10 years because it didn't transpire. Okay, that 10 years budget window is based upon the projections that didn't come true, that they had, that people were going to create jobs and more people would be paying taxes, going into the government and all this and that. But that never happened. So the 10-year window is like an imaginary window that never happened, you know? You know, it's really a cement wall rather than a budget window, you know. So anyway, but it added $2 trillion to the deficit. So there goes Chris. He responds, but added two, and then here goes Lindsey. And then he knows now that he ain't going to get nowhere with that budget window, you know, because of he brought up the $2 trillion in the deficit that the tax cut added. So he goes this way. He takes this direction now. I like giving money back to the taxpayer. I don't like spending more money than we did in World War II. You know, so that's his. This is the word for word what Lindsey Graham said here. You know, he said that. He said that's word for word. So then this is Chris. I kind of jumped into Chris's mind, and I said, and I had him saying this. Maybe we should have extended World War II to 10 years for your budget window. So maybe we should have fought World War II. It wouldn't have been such a big expense if we would have expanded World War II to keep it going for 10 years. It wouldn't have seemed like we spent all that money. You know, it would have been more economical to keep the war going for 10 years if we had that budget window. You know, keep World War II just going along. You know, instead of 4, go an extra 6 years. Stretch it out for another 6 years. World War II. Okay, so that was the punchline to that. Okay, that's the punchline here. Chris saying that. Okay, and here we got again Chris Wallace and Lindsey Graham. On Fox News Sunday. Okay, get moving along. Here we have Merrick Garland now. This is Merrick Garland, President Biden's appointed Attorney General. Runs the Justice Department. He's going to decide what happened now, what goes on now that they have the committee and the House has voted to recommend that criminal contempt charges against Trump ex-chief of staff Mark Meadows. They recommended for him because he first of all he writes the book and he's telling them all this stuff, and then all of a sudden it just dries up. He just goes dead. You know, it's like you're listening to a radio report, boom, and it's dead. Now, a lot of factors there. President Trump probably could have gotten on his case and said, well, this ain't no good, you got to shut this down. Or he got worried, you know, he's giving away his book here. Who's going to buy my book? If I squawk the whole thing out in testimony, I give away my whole book. You know, I talk out my whole book. Who's going to buy my book now? You know? You have to put it in Braille. Only deaf people who didn't hear it on TV will buy my book. You have to put the book into Braille for those are blind people. Okay, Braille's are blind people. Okay, the deaf people. Let's say people who who need special devices or something like that, who couldn't hear it. Okay, because the blind people. I'm talking Braille's for the blind people. I made a mistake there. So I'm saying is there for people with special needs who couldn't hear the testimony. They were, or for some reason, they'd have to have a special. They need the book for something, for some technical way of hearing it, other than through testimony. But the book would be revealed. That's the bottom line. The book would be revealed. So anyway, Merrick Garland flashback. Given the House has voted to recommend criminal contempt charges against Trump ex-chief of staff Mark Meadows, and he will therefore be referred to the Garland Justice Department for a final decision. for a final decision. Now, should the Garland Justice Department, under Merrick Garland, decide, well, look, like Garland said before, sometimes we have to right the ship. We can't change things. We have to keep things the way they are, just like they always were, and move along, and the ship will right itself. Those were Garland's first exact words. I read it from his philosophy that he wrote. So if you're going to let this ship go and sail out to sea with this thing, you're riding on a leaky ship, because the next somebody else could come along someday and do something even worse, or the next election they could do something even worse. It could be right around the door. We lose our democracy. Is right around the door. It's around the corner. I said around the door. It's around the corner, because you have a leaky ship with all these things that can happen, and a democracy is only as good as the people who are implementing it. You can't. The Constitution. First of all, it doesn't spell out everything. Nobody, when they wrote the Constitution back then, could have ever envisioned a president such as Donald J. Trump coming along, who would act in such a way, So, and then you go back and use the Constitution, So the thing is that here you have a situation where, you have it. The Attorney General has done a few things that are I'm talking about Merrick Garland. Now he's doing it maybe. Now Barr, the difference between Barr and Garland is that Barr was, under Trump's feet. He was like the puppet, the Barr puppet. Now Garland is not Biden's puppet, but the thing is that Garland has a philosophy or an approach from wherever it derives, from what I've read and what he's done thus far. It doesn't show a strong, firm approach. An example. I don't know if I put that in here. Okay, let's read on here. So, given the House has voted to recommend criminal contempt charges against Trump ex-Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and he will therefore be referred to the Garland Justice Department for a final decision. And given the Garland track record, this is what I'm saying, thus far, e.g. below. So here was the original cartoon. This is a flashback, and this is the original cartoon that I did. Okay. Again, goes back. I don't want to mess up a good thing and try to do something that might not be as good. Okay. So here, former President Trump watches Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland and praises Garland for his decisions that have been favorable to Trump. Example, the Justice Department announced it will appeal, that means to block, to appeal, a federal judge's order to release an internal Justice Department memo from the Trump years dealing with the Robert Mueller investigation. So is he doing the same thing Barr did? He's blocking things from coming out. Here's Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, blocking information to getting to the people. And he's appealing the decision of a federal judge. So with that in mind, how anybody could just turn around and then be real strong in this area now is problematic. I give it 50-50, okay? 50-50 of what's going to happen here. But if you don't do this, and no one else is going to, all the birds are going to fly out of the cage. It's just like if you open the cage door and you have a bunch of birds flying around, and you open the door, it opens the cage door, and all the birds fly away. What's going to happen? The abandoned bird and all those other birds, they're going to fly out the cage. And then the next time, no one's going to give a damn. They say, well, we don't have to worry about nothing now. We got nothing to worry about. We got a free pass here. There goes our democracy. People can walk in and screw up and do what they want to do, and there's no accountability, and then not have to testify and be accountable for their actions, then what have you got here? You know, you got like a Chinese baseball game where Chinese baseball, they steal, everybody runs around, they steal the bases, you know, they steal the bases, you know, they get ahead. That's how they do it. So to block the guy from hitting third base, they don't tag him, they steal the base so he can't find the base, you know. So I'm just saying to you, that's what it's Chinese baseball. You've got Chinese baseball democracy. That's what you down the road. If this doesn't work in the line of justice, is what I'm saying here. Okay, so here's President Trump watching this, and here's Merrick Garland there, and he's watching him, and he said, "What a waste of Garland's great judicial philosophy it would have been if the Republican-controlled Senate back then had confirmed Judge Garland's nomination to the Supreme Court by Obama." See, Obama wanted to nominate Garland to the Supreme Court, you know, and McConnell and all those people wanted to know, but it was towards the end of Obama's presidency, and they said, "No, we're going to wait. We're going to wait until President," who they thought, they probably surmised that President Trump was going to win. So they to see who's the next president, and they blocked it. You see, so there you have it. So anyway, so okay, so now Garland is going to really. So he's saying so I'll go over this again because I interrupted myself and I lost it here with you. What a waste of Garland's great judicial philosophy it would have been if the Republican-controlled Senate back then had confirmed Judge Garland's nomination to the Supreme Court by Obama. Now Garland is going to really F.K. up a lot of liberal Dems. When I am reelected in 2024, I might even keep him on. Forget the court. He is justice. There is justice. Thumbs up. Double thumbs up from Merrick Garland, from President Trump. Okay. All right, numero uno de la semana. Number one of the week. This is also a flashback. Couldn't have topped this. If I stayed up all night, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have topped this cartoon. So I did a flashback. Now here we've got John Eastman here. Here's John Eastman. His former President Trump. And here the founding fathers up on the wall. There's George Washington looking very somber there. George Washington. Okay. And he is going to, this guy is going to be a character in that cartoon. This is President James Madison here, you see. You notice he's got his hand over his head and says, "What's going on here?" Okay, so he's going to be the punchline to the cartoon when we get to it. James Madison. Putting his hand like he's doing a Dr. Fauci, you know. Okay. So here is, here it goes. Before January 6th Capitol riot, this is before the January 6th riot and after the election. So this is probably around the 3rd or the 4th, something like that, of January. In between, the election has taken place and before the January 6th riot. So President Trump was really fired up to do something about this, you know. He was gung-ho, you know, really moving to have his way with the election and keep his presidency. Okay, so before January 6th Capitol riot, conceivable in White House Oval Office meeting of former President Donald Trump, then Vice President Mike Pence, and Trump lawyer John Eastman, who said, courage and a spine would help Pence send the election to the House of Representatives. So the objective in this meeting is to work on this guy here, Pence, and get him, because he's been loyal to President Trump right down the line, and get Pence here not to ratify the electoral votes and short circuit the whole election and throw it into the House, and change the idea. The combination would be, I suppose, to throw it into the House or to change the electors from the states and have them put in different votes and just really misrepresent the will of the people. That's sabotaging the will of the people. You don't have a democracy when you're entertaining something like that. It's like a attempted destruction of democracy, like attempted murder, attempted destruction of democracy. You have a term for that. If you want murder, attempted murder, so this would be attempted destruction of democracy. Attempted, but didn't achieve, but attempted. Okay, all right. See, if you destroy democracy, either way. If you destroy democracy, there's no justice anymore, so you get away with it, And if you do the attempted and you don't get charged, that paves the way for attempted democracy. Paves the way for the actual real thing of the end of democracy. So, So anyway, if we let people off attempted murder, everybody, well, it's attempted murder. You didn't kill nobody. You attempted it. Maybe the bullet missed by a millimeter of an inch, so you didn't hit him. You're okay. Go home. Have a nice evening. That's what it comes down to. Okay. So anyway, here we go. Here's Pence. He's saying, "What's the deal, Mr. President?" Because it was called here. Here goes Pence. "What's the deal, Mr. President?" Again, this is a flashback. And okay. And here is then President Trump. Here's John's memo, Mike. This is John's memo. This is John right here, John Eastman. Here's John's memo, Mike. You will disregard states' electoral college votes, which will throw election to House, and John will do the rest. Do the rest. Right, John. Okay? Right, John? And he's saying right, John, with his thumbs up to John. Right, John? Okay, and he's talking to Pence there, too. He's talking to both of them in a way. Right, John? He's saying yes. And John Eastman responds saying, this goes to here. Here's him responding, okay? And he's saying, okay, we'll throw the House and John will do the rest. Right, John? And then he responds and says, that's if Mike has courage and a spine. That's if Mike has courage and a spine. Thumbs up. Okay? And then we go, Pence retorts here, which would have been a good response. That's if it's constitutional. So Pence don't want to, he has his eye on running for the presidency someday, perhaps, and he don't want to get thrown in jail for an insurrection. That ain't going to help him become president of the United States if he wants to run presidency. So he doesn't want to get his hands dirty, He'll go as far as he can go in keeping with the law and the Constitution, but he don't want to get his hands dirty, So that's it. Okay, and then here goes President Trump after Mike Pence says that's right, and Trump tries to ease his mind, to coach him into his way of thinking. And he says here, Mike, this is for the Constitution. John's memo has a quote of James Madison. James Madison was the father of the Constitution. He was the most influential one in writing the Constitution historically. It's in the history books, okay? Okay? Quote of James Madison. James Madison was the most influential founding father in the writing of the Constitution. They call him the father of the Constitution. So Trump says, Mike, this is for the Constitution. John's memo has a quote of James Madison, the father of our Constitution. Okay? Here it is. There's the memo. Okay? He's really trying to persuade Pence here, you know. Pence is giving thumbs up because he's going to check it out. He said, well, I'll check it out, see what I can do, you know. If it's Constitution, he's still, and then we flip here to number 6, which this is the real punchline. There's James Madison's putting his hand over his head and he's crying, you know, and there's Washington looking down, feeling sorry for him, for you know, after writing all that Constitution and having it trashed now, you know. The Constitution is just being trashed, and he's looking at it, he's crying in tears, James Madison, with his hand over his head. Washington feeling sympathy. George Washington here, George Washington feeling sympathy. And this guy's just taking it in here. He's having a good time laughing, you know. This guy's taking it in with a sense of humor. You know, he's got a sense of humor, this founding father, whoever he was. He's laughing. He's got a good sense of humor. Okay. So that was it. This was number 1. Folks, I want to thank you very much for making it through my political cartoon countdown for today. I wish you all the best. Hang in there and watch yourselves. And if you get into any crowded elevators, make sure you got your mask on, you know. And better yet, wait for the next elevator. And I wish you all the best. And I look forward to seeing you again next week or next time. And you just take care of yourselves. Have a good week. And God bless you. And God bless America. Bye, folks.